Hi,
Hey,
Jay.
Ron, good to see you.
Welcome for stopping down. They told me you were going to stop by and say
Anytime.
hi.
It's one of my favorite places over
Well,
here.
thanks. It's nice to see you.
It's great. You're looking great.
Well, I'm feeling well.
Yeah.
And happy to be here.
Well,
45 years I've been here trying
great. The New Moon Cafe. Wow. How 45 years?
45 years.
Wow. How'd you come up with the name New Moon?
Well, one night a friend called me and asked me, I asked her what the date was. She said it was February 6th, I believe. I said, that's a new moon. And I said, if I ever opened a business, I'd call it the New Moon. Never knowing that I might ever have a restaurant. Or being, I don't even cook. And so, but anyway, we moved out here 45 years ago, and it's been quite an experience.
Right here in downtown East Quad.
Downtown East
Boy,
Quad.
I'm sure you've seen lots of changes in those 45
years ago,
years.
there wouldn't be any cars parked on the street right now.
And so we haven't opened yet, right? You open in a little while. I guess the staff is starting to arrive.
They're starting to arrive, yes,
yeah,
sir.
and then the customers will start to arrive.
We hope.
Yeah, now you guys are pretty well known for
Yeah.
sort of a Texas-style barbecue restaurant.
Yes, sir. We've been doing barbecue for 42 of the 45.
Wow.
When we first opened, we couldn't figure out what we wanted to be.
What, did you spend some time in Texas? Or?
Well, that's where I grew up. I grew up in Devine, Texas. And everybody cooks their barbecue different, and it's a secret. Nobody will give you their secret because they have their own little secret to it. But I watched how everybody did it, and I took all their secrets and put them together and made one. And so, yeah, I bought a truckload of mesquite wood up. But yeah, so we go out there and cut the wood and put it in the smoker. And
Well, don't give away all your secrets.
Right.
I didn't come here today just because you have the best barbecue on the East End. I came here today because tomorrow is Veterans Day, and you are a decorated veteran,
Yes, sir.
Sergeant Ronald Campsey, and I know you fought in the Vietnam War.
Yes, sir.
And I know that was an incredible experience for you, and I am so honored to know you. And thank you for that service. And we're going to learn, I think, a little bit about that service today, and we're going to share it on local television, so
that'd
other
be
people
really nice.
can learn from your experience. So.
Made me get goosebumps.
No, and I've heard you speak over at the Hampton Base School, where they honor veterans.
Right.
I think they raised the flag in your honor
Yes, sir, they did.
one time. So, and I was very moved by that.
Beautiful thing they do.
Yeah. So, when I see right here at the New Moon Cafe, I see medals on the wall. I see pictures from Vietnam. Why don't we take a look? Maybe you can
Yes, sir.
show us a little bit about, tell us some of the stories about some of the things you have hanging here.
Well, this picture here, I tell them it's my Audie Murphy pose. I was getting ready to go out on ambush, and we were new in the field. That was,
That's you?
yes, sir, that was
What
me.
year was that?
October 67.
October 67. Let me see. I was about 5 years old, giving my parents hell. And you were out there fighting for us.
I was carrying an M14, the point man. I was a point man, and the point man means you lead patrols. So this area, no patrol had gotten out of the position more than 350 meters. So it was my time to walk point. Because we were new to the field.
Sure.
And so I did walk that point the next day, and we got 350 meters out, and the bullets started flying from the trees. The NBA were tied up in the tops of the trees, and they would shoot down at us.
Oh, God.
And the guys pulled back, and they forgot me and Jesus Cardile and Willie Carson.
How old were you here?
25.
25 years old. Now, you were a specialist at that point, or?
I was a private here.
Private, okay.
This is private. You make rank pretty fast in the Army if you're a good soldier and you're in a lot of action.
Right. So now this is when you first started in Vietnam. So you had just been drafted. You were
Right.
25 years old?
I was drafted at 24 and a half years of age. And,
From Texas. You were living in Texas?
well, no, I'd come from Texas. I was living in Westbury.
Here on Long Island?
Here on Long Island.
Oh, how'd you end up here?
Son of a woman.
Oh, yeah. I bet.
Yeah, lovely thing.
Good for
And
you.
it brought me
So
to,
love brought you here.
brought me to
Long
America.
Island.
I call New York, America.
Yeah. Okay.
And so anyway,
So you had come here and then you got drafted.
then got drafted. And
God, it must have been quite the experience to go from Westbury to, where is this now?
Vietnam, this is outside of Zion. and it was close to the Cambodian border,
Close to the Cambodian border, yeah.
and it was a hell of a time. So
I can't imagine what that was like.
you didn't shoot your weapon every day, but sometimes you might shoot it more than once a day.
Mm.
So you had to always be ready. You couldn't think it was just Cowboys and Indians, because it was real.
Now, did you see combat action sort of throughout your service, or just at certain points?
I saw it from, I was with the unit when we started. We started, the colonel welcomed us to his 1st Battalion, 18th Infantry, and we became his Delta Company. And his name was Colonel Richard Cavazos. Great man. He was from Rio Grande Valley in Texas. But he was just a great leader. He retired as a 4-star general.
Mm.
And he came to a reunion we had here in 1978. And I found him right before the reunion. Found him, the captain, and the lieutenant, and 17 other grunts come here, and hadn't seen each other in 20 years. It was crying, it was hugging, and
Wow. And you brought everybody together. That's
I brought it together.
that's
That
incredible.
was before computers now.
Wow. So now, you saw some real combat action in Vietnam, right? 1967,
68.
68.
The Tet Offensive in 68.
Right. I'm sure a lot of our viewers don't remember the Tet Offensive. They probably don't know much about the Vietnam War, even. You know.
Yeah.
So, tell us a little bit about what that was about and what that time was like.
At that time, they claimed the Russians and the communists were going to take over the country or the world. And I always said, why do we have to go to war first to see what's going to, you can't waste the lives. But anyway, getting there, you had to be a good soldier. So I volunteered to be a point man because I was 25 and they were 18 and 19, and I just didn't trust their mentality. So I volunteered and found 2 other guys my age, and we walked point. And the first point I ever walked was on October the 6th, and no company had gotten outside the perimeter more than 350 meters. And we reached the 350 mark, and they started shooting us. And the company, there's 2 companies, they pulled back and left Jesus Cardillo, Willie Carson, and me out there, and we were by ourselves. And they're saying, come on, we gotta move, we gotta move. I said, if we move 1 foot, they'll never find us. We gotta stay where we were when they left, and they'll come back. And they did. This happened on May 4th. We were in Zion in
1968 here.
68, and they brought us in for arrest, they say, but you never trust them because you never get more than 1 day. So anyway, they came the next morning and said they had a patrol that we had to run out of Zion. It's about 1,800 miles, 18 meters from Zion, our base camp, and so they changed us to be lead from November platoon. And I don't know, never did find out why they changed it. But we were going out on the patrol, and we turned off the roadway and started walking towards a little village would be there. I was on point, and the lieutenant had gone out on the left flank, and I was out on the right flank with my radio man, and we found a bowl of rice and a warm bowl of rice and a North Vietnamese hat. And I went as fast as I could over to tell the captain, Captain Shaw. I said, sir, we got to stop the patrol. Captain Shaw said, no, Campsey, we're going to go further up and send out Cloverleaf. I said, I couldn't believe he wouldn't listen to me. It was very frustrating. And later in life, I asked my general if I would have shot that warning shot. And he said, if there was nothing there, Ronnie, you could have been in big trouble because you violated orders.
Oh boy.
So anyway, I found the lieutenant out on the other flank, and the lieutenant was, as I was telling him about the hat, I said, sir, we got to stop the patrol. And I'm looking past him, and there's about 50 NBA soldiers running with little dogs and pigs running around in the village. And I said, holy shit, because I knew that hell was going to happen in about 1 second. Bullets started flying and everything, and I told the Lieutenant Price, he was killed. I said, Lieutenant Price, I said, I'll give you cover so you can go back with the rest of the guys. So my radio man and me, we stayed there to give him cover to get back, and then we made it back. But during that meantime, he'd been shot, and he had a wound in the groin, and he bled out. And the medic had about 7 guys laying in the little hole they were in. And I asked where the point man was, Red Man. Red Man was on point. He was from Bicknell, Utah, and we'd been there together. A great soldier. I never knew how he died, though, but because when they found him, all they found was his waist down. His chest and head were gone. But I never found out what happened to him. So some 20 years later, I found my radio man out in California, and we found Bruce Harrelson, who was with Red Man. Red Man and Harrelson were together, and so I finally found out how Johnson died. He said, Ronnie, we were out there, and he said, all of a sudden, hell broke loose. And Red Man said, you cover the low area, and I'll take care of the high area. That day was so tangled because the company was separated. There was 6 guys over here, 6, because everybody was scattered because we weren't together. And I crawled forward to find Red Man because I was the sergeant. And it was my company. I mean my squad. And so crawled up out there, and the bullets are flying so bad, and a bullet went through my helmet, and I didn't know it till 2 hours later, but it threw me back, and I didn't know it went through till we had pulled back, and that's when help came. They brought a couple of tanks and helicopters in, and they pulled us out, and they found Red Man, and they carried. My friend said, Ronnie, I stopped at the stream and I cleaned him up. And he said I took his belt off because I know he would have wanted me to have a North Vietnamese belt. That was earlier we got the belt. And so Red Man, I found out how he got killed, and I found the parents of the families who were that died with me in Vietnam, and I went to them and would tell them that I was with their son, and tell him what a fine person he was, because I felt it was my moral obligation to reach as many as I could. I think I got about 8 or 9, and then we got kind of bankrupt, no money, so I didn't get to meet the rest of the mothers. And some of them would cry and scream and holler at me and say, why did it take so long? And I said, I didn't know how to find you. And then one lady said, Ronnie, I didn't have any pictures of Jerry. And I said, well, miss, I'll see if I can find a picture. And I went through all my pictures and laying in an envelope that was different than all the rest of the envelopes in that box. And I couldn't figure out whose pictures they were. They were 35 millimeter. I could look, but I couldn't tell. So I told her, I said, I'll have them developed, but I can't promise you. So I went and picked up the envelope at the print shop. And Lord be, there's about 10 or 15 pictures of her son.
Oh boy, yeah.
And I called her up and told her right before Thanksgiving, I said, now Miss Klein, I'm not sure it's him, because I don't want you to feel let down if it's not. So she called me up the next day and said, Ronnie, they were pictures of Jerry. That was Thanksgiving Day.
Oh, what a nice thing you did for her. Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And so it was one of the fastest ones. So Red Man, all they found was his legs. His upper body was gone. So Miss Johnson, I called her on holidays and stuff, and she said, Ronnie, I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to tell me the truth. Someone told me that all of Bill Redman Johnson didn't come home. And I said, Miss Johnson, I said, that's correct. I said, he was blown up, and all we found was his legs. She said, well, I needed to know, Ronnie. Thank you so much. And then she started telling me about the young ladies that she met on the sidewalk the day before. She met Miss Johnson and said, Miss Johnson, I went to the senior prom with Bill. And so I said, isn't this something? We found out that his legs were blown off, and the next story she tells about him being the best dancer of the land.
And wow.
Yeah,
Ron, you talked about getting shot in the helmet,
right.
and the bullet went right through. Were you hit too?
Well, my scalp was scratched a little bit from the bullet jacket, but it went through the helmet, and I had lifted the straps on the helmet the day before because they said we were having a rest, and I only had 3 weeks left in country, out in the field. And so I had raised the things, and when it went through, it jolted my neck and burned it. You know what I mean? It felt like it burned. I asked the guys behind me, I said, am I bleeding? And they said no. And because they had a machine gun, and we couldn't move forward or backwards or anyway, because all around us the bullets were hitting. The dust would be flying in my eyes, and that's how close it was. But the man with me got shot through the arm and leg. That was the guy from California.
So, Ron, you lost a bunch of friends that day, right?
That day, I think, total of 13 were killed. In our platoon alone, I think there was 5 killed and 15 wounded. There was 5 of us left able-bodied.
And did you sustain any other injuries that day? Or?
Well, I'm going to tell you 2 injuries that occurred. The medic, when I came back after we got the lieutenant, the medic was taking care of the guys that's in this little swell, little shallow thing, and there was about the 4 that were dying were there, but the other ones were injured. So he's having to decide who can live and who's not going to live, because he couldn't take care of all of them at one time. So think of the pressure that he had to do. So then an hour or so later, when we finished carrying everyone back so they could pull them out, and when they say dead weight is heavy.
Well, I'm trying to imagine this scene and how you even got out of there. So you're sort of surrounded by Viet Cong, right?
Right.
And there's bullets flying everywhere. You
Right.
got 13 or so of your,
Right.
other soldiers who get killed that day. You managed to get out alive.
Well, that's divine intervention. But I was going to tell you that there, next to me, was Jimmy Chavez. He was my dear friend. He was from Alabama, the middle child of 15 children. He was a young black man, about 25. Greatest soldier I ever knew in my life, the bravest man. And he had a stroke, so he's not too good shape. But in that moment, I'm looking over there and I'm mad at him because he's not doing anything because we can't move. Because you have to blame somebody for why you can't move. And I was wondering why the hell they weren't helping me. Then I looked, the bullets are flying through the bamboo little structure they were behind, and the bullets were flying through it. And they were just trying to keep from getting shot. It's like doing the Mexican hat dance. And so that day was a long day. So
How'd you get out of there?
well, finally, as evening came, they couldn't find one guy that was missing. And we pulled back in and went to Zion. I think it's 1,800 meters. And I said, how cruel is it for them to make us walk 1,800 meters after what we've gone through that day? Then I realized they made us walk that distance because they wanted us to kind of shut down. So if you had anger or bitterness, you had time to
Calm down.
take some breath.
Sure.
And we got back there, and the captain told us they took names because they had to find out. And one guy was missing, and the next morning when they went out and found him. But it was a hell of a day. October 4th, 1968. That day in Vietnam, more soldiers were killed than any other day of the war.
That's the Tet Offensive.
The
Right?
Tet Offensive. It's during the Tet Offensive.
Now, behind me on the wall, I see a number of medals. I see awards, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, Bronze Star, Silver Star.
This here is
What they
the
made.
plaque I put up in 1985. for public display. The first time in 17 years, I took away the old black satchel. Cold chills ran down my back and neck, flooded my eyes with tears. With some difficulty, I arranged these simple frames. Did I cry about the traumatic time I myself experienced? Did I cry about the guilt I felt in earning these awards? Did I cry for my friends who died around me? I could do nothing for them. Or did I cry for how most people misunderstood what the infantrymen went through in Vietnam? Perhaps it was a combination of all these things. So you see, you must understand that this wall is not about ostentatious display, but rather it is a personal catharsis as well as a sincere dedication to all combat veterans, and especially those of the 1st Division, 1st Battalion, 18th Infantry Company D, 1967-68. I call us American heroes. October 30th, I got blown up. Another North Vietnamese soldier got up and stood in front of me and shot and missed. Hit the rubber tree I was behind. And I hit the ground, and my weapon wouldn't fire because when I hit the ground, I got dirt in it. So I'm crawling backwards at about 200 miles an hour. That's what it felt like. But and then I got blown up. I got up and started going forward again, and I was looking for a machine gun. And I took a step over the trenches in the Michelin rubber plantation, and I looked down, and there was 3 North Vietnamese soldiers, and he lifted up his machine gun at me. He had green eyes, he had a mustache, and a bandage on his right ankle. And
You were that close to him, you could see all that detail.
4 feet.
4 feet away.
4 feet away.
And with a gun pointed at you?
No, that was after we threw the grenade in the trench.
Oh, you threw a grenade into his trench.
Right, me and another person. I had to get one of the soldiers' weapons and ammo because I used my last ammo shooting the 3 that were in the trench. I fired 20 rounds in them, and I'm not telling this a glamour or anything. Once you lose your control of yourself, you just can't stop shooting. And I could pull the trigger and the smoke would come out of the hole. And I'd shoot again. And I did 20 rounds. And now I'm out of ammunition, so I pick up the AK-47 from the enemy soldier. And after that, my friends said I did stuff, but I couldn't remember it because I think I was already so shocked.
Now, this is a day, you say you were, I guess, blown up 8 times or shot at 8 times?
Shot at and blown up. Blown up twice. One grenade didn't go off good, so but still. But the other one hit the rubber tree I was behind and blew me back. My medic told me years later, I found my medic, he was living in Iceland. He said, "Ronnie, I thought you were dead." He says, I ran up there, and he pulled me back and asked him if I had my arm and leg on. And I looked down, and my arm and legs going like this here. And said, "Holy shit." So
you could have died 8 times that day.
8 times.
So now you suffer from a little bit of Parkinson's disease, and
Yes, sir, I have Parkinson's.
has that affected some of your memories of these things?
Agent Orange, it does. I get things mixed up. But the story, my friends all said, "Ronnie, you're the only one that has a story, do it." And I said, I might have waited too long, but I feel I can do it now. And Parkinson's, 15 of my friends have died this year from Agent Orange poisoning. And it just makes me angry that their spouses get $1,200 a month in disability. They were caregivers and they took care of us. And it's important that people learn and find out if they have money to spend other places, they can surely find it for the wives of those great soldiers that gave so much to America. So I'm taking the time that I'm talking with Jay here.
I appreciate that.
Because that is a subject that angers me very much. And see, they were getting 38 with the husband and the wife, but they slice it down to $1,200 a month. And if you use some of that money in that month, meaning it came by check and you deposit it, and you use 10 days that he'd already died, they make them pay that back. It's terrible.
We need to do a better job taking care of
We
our veterans and their
certainly do.
families.
That's my next
Yeah.
goal.
Oh, good.
That's my goal.
So tell me, Ron, with today being a day before Veterans Day, what does it mean to you to be a veteran, and what does the day mean to you?
Well, to be a veteran is a powerful word. The camaraderie that you share with your fellow man is stronger than any relationship you'll have the rest of your life, because you got to see each person who they were. There was no rich, there was no poor, there was no color, there was nothing. When you are fighting for your life, you get as close as you can to the man you're with, because you want to, you're trying to get your firing and everything. But it was the greatest thing just to be with my friends. The camaraderie. Camaraderie, it's very special. The second thing on Veterans Day, my father was in the Battle of the Bulge. He was in the Big Red One, the same as I was. Same company and battalion and everything. And he got wounded on February 5th, 1945. And he came back to America after a couple of months. He told a story how there was 13 of them left, and the Germans opened up a machine gun on them, and they were on top of a little ridge with ice and snow. He said, Ronnie, they went around and started bayoneting the wounded soldiers to make sure they're dead. There was only 13 Americans there, but they wanted to make sure that every one of them was dead, because they didn't want to use their ammunition. And so Dad was laying there on the ground, but he said, I could look and see what they were doing, and they're walking towards him. They come over and stand by him and Sergeant Black. They laid there. The Germans smoked a cigarette, finished the cigarette, and turned around and walked off, and forgot to stab my dad and Sergeant Black, because otherwise, I was 4 years old. I would have never known who my dad was. So you tell me, divine intervention, and I'm the oldest of those 12 children.
Well, you're fortunate to have grown up with your father.
So on that Veterans Day, I would honor all the men, women, children, because everyone is a veteran. It's not just the soldier. It affects the marriage, the kids, and the wife.
Now, my dad fought in World War II
Right?
and Korea.
And Korea.
Yeah, both active duty, both wars. And he's gone now.
Yeah.
Good 10 years. Well, what a great man. And I remember before he died, I asked him about his service, and he told me he'd do it all again.
Yeah.
He was very proud to serve.
And my dad had said,
He was a lieutenant,
Right.
Navy lieutenant.
Navy lieutenant.
Yeah, good guy. Came back and became a elementary school teacher of all things. So,
Well, that's a
yeah. And you came back and look, you've been a restaurateur.
well,
A pretty damn popular restaurant here in East Guelph.
thank you. Thank you. I've enjoyed it. To live someplace for 45 years. When we first came here, we provided Thanksgiving dinners to the senior citizens for about 25 years. I think we gave away about 10 or 15,000 dinners. But I did that when I came out here, because I felt if I was lonely that day, there must be others, men and women, seniors that were old, and you would deliver the food to their house, and the house would have blankets over all the doors and the windows, and they'd live in one room. And it was one of my customers said, Ronnie, that was the most rewarding thing in my life I've ever done.
Well, it sounds like you've been taking good care of this community. So let me ask you, has the community been taking good care of you?
Well, the first 20 years it was kind of hard, 10 or 15 years, but they thought I was a pot dealer. And I called the detectives up and told them, I said, listen, if I'm out here chopping wood to heat my house and business, you think I'm a drug dealer? Because I had a business that I sold and I was unhappy. And my wife left me and the 4 kids and moved out here. And I thought if I built the place, we might get back together. Thank you, Lord, we didn't. But it's been a interesting time.
Well, you got a wonderful wife now.
I have a beautiful wife now.
Shauna, right?
Yes, sir. Shauna Crozier Campsey. We met at that booth right over there. The first booth coming in on a February the 18th.
Now you have some kids?
We have 8 children.
8.
I have 4 older children and 4 younger children.
God bless you. Yeah. Now, are any of them involved with the restaurant?
No, they all got traumatized. It's a hard business, and they worked hard. They have great people skills, great working skills, but they had to leave.
But now Shauna's involved with you here.
Yeah, Shauna, and then we have a young lady named Amy. She's our manager, and I call the restaurant the old girl. It's doing pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
I know it's popular.
yeah.
Yeah, all these years. I'm looking at this picture of you here, Ron, and you're a handsome young man. You were 25 years old.
25 years
So that's
old.
a lot of years and a lot of miles from
Yeah,
today.
It is.
You're still looking good.
Yeah.
You know, fighting off this Parkinson's the best you can.
Yeah.
And look at you. You're still giving back to the community. You're still feeding people, and you're still telling the stories and educating younger people so they can learn about some of this.
The quick little story is, when I first came here, I had children in the school, so I'd go to the school and go to the 2nd or 3rd grade and take my helmet with the bullet hole through it and talk to them about war, how it's not just bang bang and it's not glory. And I have about 20 years of their letters. They would send me a thank you letter and draw something on it. And I said, how lucky, how could I have ever done this by myself? Meaning that, there was a lot of factor in it that helped. And so I'm thankful for that, and I'm not going too soon, Jake. So
Oh, good.
that's
So what's the best thing on the menu?
Oh, people love the barbecue ribs, but I don't eat meat. I'm a Texan who doesn't eat meat because the chickens, the cows, and the pig were all my friends.
Oh, okay. So you're a vegetarian?
Sort
of? You eat fish?
No, we didn't have fish. We didn't have any water to fish where we lived. So plus I almost drowned a few times, so I was kind of scared of water. I have to say that if I was to have searched, I don't think I could have found a better town than I live in. The fire department, the school, the flower shop, the bagel place.
The people.
The people. Because I couldn't, when they would come in, they have their nose up, I'd tell them, I think you're in the wrong place.
That's funny. All right, we're gonna have a seat.
Okay.
Let you rest your legs a little bit. Well, Ron, it's good to be sitting down with you here at the New Moon Cafe, and I'm thinking a little bit about your experience in Vietnam and what kind of training that they gave you. Could they even prepare you for a situation like that, or is there really no way to prepare somebody for what you actually faced over there?
Well, you know what America did? America drafted everything that could crawl and creep.
So you didn't need any prerequisites. If you could stand up and hold a gun.
So what I'm telling you is we had the ghettos of the world of America, the farmland of America, people that had only been on the farm and never been anyplace else probably. So when the first day there, they get you up at 5 in the morning, and then you got to go in the chow line. In the first few days, the newbies must have thought if they fell doing the 8 walking on the bars, if they fell down, the sergeant would make everybody in line step on them. And after 3 days, we had nobody passing out from doing the climbing.
They all made it over at that point, right?
Well, after the getting stepped on,
Yeah, that'll do it.
they found Jesus.
Wow.
Come to Jesus moment.
So, tell me a little bit about arriving in Vietnam.
Well, we'd been on the ship for 23 days. We went through the Philippines, and we stopped in Guam. And is we were within 20 miles of Vietnam, and Bon Tao had the biggest, most beautiful white sandy beaches. Beautiful. And you could see it from the ship in the 20-mile line around, and you could start seeing little things. But then we looked around the ship, and there was all these little sampan, little fishing boats. Maybe 100 of them fishing out there. And there was 4 or 5 objects floating in between the boats and the water. And I'm saying, that looks like a damn body. I get up closer to the rail, and floating right past us were 5 North Vietnamese people who had their heads cut off. So I said, this is a hell of a ride.
Welcome to Vietnam. Huh?
Welcome to Vietnam. And I'm a man that don't eat meat. I'm a man that couldn't kill a squirrel. Couldn't even run over a damn raccoon in the road. And in the Army here, having to do the thing.
That sounds like a scene from a movie, but it's real.
Yeah.
It's real.
It was a hell of a movie.
Yeah, it's the real deal.
I lived it like a movie, meaning that if you're going to do it, if you get blown up, you're not going to just want to. Then you hit the ground.
So you were, in your head, you were imagining your own death happening.
Oh, yeah.
I guess you had to.
And you had an opportunity to think if that wanted to be the channel you wanted to take. I've asked many of my Vietnam friends this. My friend Tom Quinn, he lost both of his legs in Vietnam. He was 6'4", but he had a big frame, so he couldn't use artificial. But I said, Tom, when you got blown up, what was it like? He said, Ronnie, it was like I went up and I had a chance to look down and see where I was and decide whether I wanted to stay or continue my exit. He said, within seconds, I decided I wanted to make it, and I started telling them what to do, because they were Hispanic. But he told the lieutenant, well, I think the lieutenant got his hand hurt a little bit, told the lieutenant what to do. They were going out to get water for their position. And Tom said, Ronnie, I felt something was there, so I stopped the patrol, and I reached down and felt and looked around and didn't see anything. Got up and took 2 steps, and I heard the snap. Knew that a grenade, and he popped a grenade, and it blew up in both of his legs. He said, I was just up there just having the opportunity.
So Ron, what makes somebody a good soldier?
Having a heart, that makes a good soldier. In April of '68, we came upon a North Vietnamese soldier that had a head wound. And I was on point that day, and so what we did is we bandaged up his head, gave him some water, knowing that he would, because we couldn't take him with us. There was only 13 of us, and we were out on patrol. And so further up the trail, I picked up his diary, picked up his letter that he was sending to his wife in North Vietnam, and I had my interpreter read it. It said that, can't wait to get home to see the children. Love you, can't wait to get to be with you. And I knew that he would never get any of that. And so after that, I called him the other soldier.
I can't imagine being put in a situation like that. Does something change inside of you in a situation like that?
Well, it changes you forever. It changes you forever because you saw something that 90% of the population would ever see or will ever see. And because being an infantryman or in the new Army, it's still a proud thing to be. But I wouldn't take $1 million for it.
So the war changed you.
It changed me. I've been in therapy for the better part of 50 years. I've got shrapnel in my hips.
Do we do enough for the soldiers that come back from conflict situations to help them manage that?
It's like everything else. The VA was a dollar short, meaning the government never funded the veterans' hospitals and clinics. They did everything but that. And so.
So do you feel like you had, as they call it, post-traumatic stress disorder or something like that?
I figured everybody lost their businesses and marriages and everything. I realize now that I was probably not a good husband because I was anxious, had depression and anxiety, terrible. So it cost me my marriage, my business. I'd become very successful, and I didn't like money anymore. Didn't like anything.
So you feel the war in that combat situation, the situation you found yourself in, affected the rest of your life?
The rest of my life, I'll tell you a quick story. I came in from R&R, I went on R&R to Hawaii, and I met my first wife, and my kids were conceived on December the 7th, Pearl Harbor Day. I know that it was raining a lot. We smoked a little doobie in the room, and twins were conceived. But so when I got back to Vietnam, my lieutenant said, "Campsey, would you like to be my aide?" And I said, "Yes, sir. I get out a pill if I'm his aide." Well, I went to type, and I couldn't get my right hand to move. I kissed it, slapped it, begged it. I said, "If you don't move, I'm going to have to go back out to the field." I know that to be my first stress disorder thing that got blocked. Blocked. The other thing is when I got blown up in the ear, and it messed up some of the brain function. This side of the body feels like a giant, and the other side feels like it's tiny.
Did it affect your hearing or your vision?
Oh yeah.
It did.
Vision.
Now, has the government compensated you in any way?
I get disability.
You do, yeah.
But I ask them why I can't get 4 disabilities. I have 4
injuries, yeah.
4 injuries.
Yeah.
Any up, guys.
So what more could we do to help our veterans?
Give them the tools to work with. Make sure that if they're coming out of the service, that you've got some training that they've had other than being a combat soldier. And some of them are very proud, some of them are probably alcoholics, some of them are depressed. But I think that the VA is doing the best I've ever seen.
Now, we have a clinic out here too. Now over out at the county center, everybody calls it Riverhead. It's really actually part of Southampton, but you know where I'm talking about. We opened a clinic there.
Right, but I go to it.
Yeah, and they do a good job?
They do a fabulous job. They answer your calls and call you back. It's great. I think Eunice is the lady's name. She runs one hell of an office.
And the town itself, town of Southampton, have we been doing an okay job by our veterans in terms of, I know we're doing some discount cards and some veteran parking areas at town buildings. Is there more we should be doing?
Yeah, you should. Make sure that you issue the parking with the lines that they're used properly. And we ask that East Quogue is still looking for a parking lot.
Oh, yeah, municipal lot, right?
But overall, I think the town's done pretty damn good.
Good, I was hoping you'd say that.
You can complain about a lot of things, but I've been out here 45 years, and I can tell you, I think it's running about the smoothest I've seen, but I have other friends that were supervisors too.
I'm sure.
And when someone's a supervisor or sergeant in the Army, you only hope that they're sincere in what they do and work for the community. And I think that you've done that.
Oh, thank you. Well, that means a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I think the world of you.
Well,
You put your life on the line for all of us, for me, for everyone I know for, and I don't even know how to say thank you to somebody who does that, But by maybe sharing some of your stories, and giving you a moment to, to tell those stories.
Yeah.
But
And you know what I hope is? I hope that the people that hear it, I carry a poster. Where's that poster at? My wife made a poster in 1985 in New York City, that parade for the veterans, and it spoke about the veterans. So that sign, I gave it to a museum in Chicago because they have all my helmet with the bullet hole through it. The First Division Museum in Chicago. And so I made another poster, and it tells why I love America. I march for those who are with me, whose voices can no longer be heard. For the families who lost so much to war, every day is Memorial Day for them. I hope the young men and women will stand up and ask why, when they hear the sabers of war come rattling again.
Sergeant Ronnie Campsey.
1st Battalion, 18th Infantry, 67, 68, the Big Red One.
What's the Big Red One?
The 1st Infantry Division that was ever formed for the America.
They called it the Big Red One.
First, they were heroic in World War I, II, and
Now you marched with this in a parade? Is that?
yeah, I march with it in parade so that people can understand. You can't care flowers or whatever. I want to make a statement. So I have it in the restaurant here so people can read it. And they ask me, why is it there? I said, I'm just making a statement.
Yeah. Every day is Memorial Day if you've
Right.
lost somebody.
Right.
But every day should be Veterans Day.
Well,
Every day we should pay respect
right.
to those who served our nation.
And the mothers and fathers.
I start every town board meeting with a moment of silence
Great.
in honor of all those in harm's way.
In harm's way.
Yep.
When I say my prayers at night, I pray for some of the customers that told me they were ill. Now I'll tell you beautiful stories. Being in the business for 45 years. A few weeks back, a table was getting their food, and I'd been talking to them, and I said, Ronnie, would you like to say a blessing with us for our food before we eat? And I said, certainly I'd love to do that. And I find more, like when I find someone that's real sick and I ask them, I say, I'll make sure I mention you in my prayers. And I'm a Christian man, and there's so many reasons I could tell you why I'm a lucky Christian man. But we all have something in us that we can give. And so this poster here, my good friend Jay is doing this for me for Veterans Day, and so I'm glad I can do it and let others read it and hear it. And thank you very much for everything today.
You got it, Ron.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Well, that, I think, is a great message to end our show with. And thank you for saying that.
So on Veterans Day, don't be afraid to say thank you to a veteran and tell him thank you for being a good person. Many of them live alone. I'm lucky I have a partner in Shauna, because I wouldn't be who I am if it wasn't for her and living in this community that gave me a place to grow up and be a person. So I'm thankful that I had that opportunity, because I was a watermelon picker from Divine, Texas, and I came to America on my 20th birthday. That was Westbury, Long Island. I call that America. And America was a place that if you wanted to work, you could work and make money and have your own business. That's what makes America a beautiful place. We still have those freedoms.
Well, I'm glad you came here to East Quad for your business.
Yeah. I wanted to live in a small country town.
Well, I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to thank you once again for your service. And if there's anything myself or the town can do, you just let me know, okay?
I'll be on the phone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right,
God bless
you
you.
got it.